Welcome to This Week on Cranberry Coast Concerts. We're arriving at your TV screen to let you know about what's happening at New England's most unique music festival,
Cranberry Coast Concerts.
Yes, and this is a very special edition of Cranberry Coast Concerts because I have the privilege of interviewing the creator of Always Remember, an original musical about the Cuban-American experience, Marilyn Morales.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get all red now, you know, and I'm blue.
Well, we just enjoyed a performance of Our Not So Secret Love featuring Rachel Rogers and Robert Brennan singing the parts of Orlando and Adina. And Marilyn, tell us a little bit about your inspiration for Always Remember, the history. Let's talk about the musical a little bit.
Well, okay, thank you, Kirk. I left Cuba in 1971 via Spain, and I lived in Spain about almost 3 years, and then to United States. And living in Miami, you don't see this very much because there's so many Cubans living in Miami, but then I moved to California to follow my heart to this beautiful guy.
She met me.
Yes. And I noticed that a lot of people away from Miami, they don't know what's going on and what is still going on in Cuba. So I saw an article on the newspaper, and actually it was an article. It was a letter to the news editor. And I decided that because the person was very misinformed, I decided that I had to answer. So I did. Actually, I wrote to the editor, and they printed it. And then after that, I started thinking, it's not anybody's fault that they don't know about Cuba. Because you don't see much news in the CNN or anything, so I decided to write a musical about my experience and other people's experiences, not only me. And not only did I base it on some things that happened to me and to my friends and to my family, but also I read a lot of books. So
yeah, and one thing that it's interesting because when Marilyn was working on the development of the story for this musical, I was hearing, of course, a lot of the early ideas, the early stories.
I drove him crazy.
in a very good way. And it was kind of tough for me in the early stages to put it together because this story is actually quite complex. There's a lot of deep stories that some happen to you, some happen to family, and also
Yes.
and taken from historical accounts. So could you say then that just about every single part of the musical happened to someone, right?
Yes, yes. But like I said, it's not autobiographical. Just to start with, in my family we're 5, and in my musical we're 6. Mm-hmm. So, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to tell more things. Actually, it's really interesting because not only is this still going on in Cuba, but also in Venezuela and many other parts of the world, and people need to know.
And yeah, this is really a story about not just the Cubans, but the refugee experience
Yes.
around the world of people who are displaced, what they have to do to make it, to leave their country, and what happens when they come to new places and how they survive. So really, this is kind of a love letter to refugees everywhere around the world, and sadly, it's something that keeps happening in different ways to different peoples.
But I was going to say, I mean, it's not all sad, you know, because hey, if there's one person that leaves in the movies when it's sad, it's me. I mean, you know, in Braveheart, at the ending, he turned around and I was like going, honey, I'm gone, you know. I mean, I just don't like that. So,
well, the first song that we heard, Our Not So Secret Love,
yes.
is one of the lighthearted moments in the piece.
And actually, what it is that, of course, I love romance, and you can tell. But what happens is 2 young students, they meet in the school and they fall madly in love with each other.
And then some things happen, but we're not going to tell you.
Oh yes, you have to come
them.
and see it.
Well, also too, one thing that's been interesting about the development of Always Remember is that it has taken place the development of the project has taken place in two very different places, in South Florida and here in Massachusetts, where we're recording this for any of you who are listening around the world. We've performed this in several workshops. In fact, the first piece that you heard, and you'll also see another later on in the show, that were recorded at one of our big workshops at Eastern Bank in Wareham in 2014. And here we are recording
Seems like
this.
yesterday.
Yep, we're recording this 5 years later in 2019. We've been developing this in a series of workshops, and it's been very interesting to both of us to be able to work with people in Florida, people in Massachusetts, and actually we've had some people in California. Hi there, Katie Ketchum.
Yay!
Who has participated in various workshops of Always Remember.
So we're going to be premiering it in Florida.
Yes, and more about that later
Yes.
in the show, because March is a wonderful time to leave New England for a little while, so you can come to Florida and see the show.
And try the black beans.
Well, right now, though, we're going to see a performance by Michael Dewart, which we taped in 2015 in Onset. And this is a very emotionally charged song from Always Remember, entitled Anne Frank. And Marilyn, could you tell people a little bit about what's happening in this piece of music?
Yes. In the first act, Manolo, which is the name of the dad, he has to stay behind because his oldest son has to, they don't let them out because he has to join the military. And so he's, in the second act, he's just sick of the whole thing that's going on with the government. And so he tries to leave only to be taken prisoner. And so now he has been in jail, being tortured, and he's desperate. He doesn't want to leave anymore. And so, but he keeps seeing a shadow. And the shadow, at first he thinks the shadow is one of his daughters who are in Spain now, and but it isn't. See, Manolo was a teacher, and in the first act he was teaching about Anne Frank. And so it's Anne Frank's spirit that comes to visit him, telling him, hang on, dude, don't you quit on me.
Well, and also in this song we get to hear not just Mike Dewart, but background vocals by Kathy Portlock-Pacito, and we're playing piano and keyboards, and we have Randy Cloutier on drums and Tom Casale on bass. Let's watch.
Shout and scream, my heart is falling. With solemn tears I gently weep. She begs me solace and to sleep. And for the world to heal, I wish we all could feel this inspiration.
Wow, I mean, I'm a little biased about your writing, but what a wonderful and powerful piece.
Oh my gosh, I gotta tell you, I mean, in that performance, I wasn't expecting him to dress up like a prisoner, and when I was announcing it, I was like talking about the piece, and then all of a sudden I see him, and I notice a big black thing on the side, and I'm, what happened? And then I understood.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was privy to that. Mike wanted to surprise her in that performance and dress up
Oh,
like
did he surprise me?
Manolo. He was
Wow.
looking like he'd been beaten and tortured for years, and to the point that actually the people in the hall, we didn't see the lead up to this, but when he was coming up to the stage, people reached out to him because they thought that he was
a
a
homeless.
homeless man and he was lost or something like that. So he really drove that one home. So again, thank you, Mike, and
Yes.
great job. Well, now it's time to let you, our viewers, know that we greatly value your input. We'd like to read to you some of our fan mail. Okay, here, what do we have here, Marilyn? Let's see here. We have actually we've received a whole bunch of fan mail. Let's see how much we can get through today. So the first one is from who do we have here?
Jules Bouquet.
And he was writing this either from New Orleans, Louisiana, or Paris, France. We know he travels to both locations. And he said, how did you two meet, and when did you begin your musical journey together?
Well, I don't know if you're going to do the long story, but we did meet in a piano competition in Portland, Maine. And girls, you have to clap because I beat him.
Yeah, and she didn't beat me with that weapon that she has in her hand right there. But yes, I clearly won the prize. So that was Portland, Maine in 1988. And Jules asked, when did we begin our musical journey together? Well, pretty much there. And it's been great ever since.
Actually, what happened is that you were living in California. And I was living here in Massachusetts. And so we call each other and we would say, okay, are you practicing this piece this fast? And then, our phone bills were really amazing.
I remember those phone bills too,
my
yes.
gosh.
Fortunately,
We didn't have FaceTime.
No, they're not. Much different times now, fortunately. Well, let's keep moving along here too. We have two very similar questions. We can kind of put these together. One from Cheryl Wiggins in Miami, Florida.
She's my jazzercise teacher.
We'll see you soon, Cheryl.
Yes.
And she asked, how long do you practice a piece? And we also have a similar question from Leslie Rogers in Kansas City, Missouri, asking, how many hours a week do you practice?
Well, I would like to answer the one about how long do you practice a piece. Since we play together so much at two pianos or one piano, four hands, which it gets really cozy, what we have to do is we practice separate first, and then we practice together, because when you practice alone, it sounds one way, and when you practice together, you have to really react to the other person.
And then you have to work out the traffic.
Oh my gosh.
There's all kinds of stuff
yes.
that the hands
big
have
hands,
to. We have to get out of each other's way. Yep.
And he took my pinky one time, but that's another story. But I mean, it's like we practice as much as we can.
And as much as you need to do it right. That's the point. I mean, if it's an easy piece, it won't take long. If it's a complex piece, it might take weeks or months or sometimes years to perfect.
And I gotta tell you something, for all of you that are studying piano or any instrument, make sure also that you go to concerts, because it will really inspire you. There's nothing like you see somebody playing and you go, oh, I can do that. And then you get home and you practice.
Well, and as to how many hours a week we practice, well, again, it really depends upon the performance, the demands of each of the performances.
And and about the piece, how long do you practice a piece? I mean, it's like you always want to practice and find new things. That's what refines it.
That's right. Every time we try to do it better. Well, let's see. Next up, we have
Helene A. Hart from Punta Gorda.
Right, and as a matter of fact,
Florida.
she asks, are you performing anywhere near Punta Gorda?
Oh yes, we are working on it. Actually, last time we were very close to Punta Gorda was in De Soto County, where we played in the schools. And this goes to all the teachers out there. We love to go to the schools and play and give master classes to the kids.
Okay, and next up we have Stacy Alonso in Miami, Florida. She asks, what does your September look like?
Well, we're having this concert on September 6th.
That's right, September 6th is when we are going to be doing the showcase of Always Remember songs at Eastern Bank in Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, 226 Main Street. And that's going to be September 6th. It's a Friday evening at 7:15. Doors open at 6:45. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the show. But a good chunk of what we're doing between then and the rest of September is getting ready to come back to Florida so that we can produce the world premiere of it in March. Okay, next up we have Mo Hurley, who is a poet from somewhere in California, and she asks, why is the sky blue? Well, we have an answer for you, Mo. Boom, 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 boom,
Blue skies shining on me, nothing but blue skies do I see.
Well, you know that the composer of that song, no matter who you worship, we feel that the great being felt that it was important that Cole Porter have that title for himself.
Oh, yes.
That's why the sky is blue.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and let's see here. I believe that's it for our fan mail. Now, if you would like to have your fan mail read on this week on Cranberry Coast Concerts, please send your emails to ccc@whipmo.com.
And now I have the pleasure of introducing the arranger of Always Remember.
I wonder who that is.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's you.
It's me.
Yes.
Yes, you can see we're keeping this one all in the family. People have asked the question. Okay, it's Marilyn's musical. Absolutely. She's
Yes.
written the songs, she's written the
Yes.
stories, she's written the lyrics, and she's bounced a few things off of me, and I've added my input, but basically this is her creation.
Well, it was really very important for me to have someone that really knows English language better than me, because that's not my first language. And so, because I want everyone to understand, even though there's a few words dropped here and there in Spanish, it's all in English.
Yes, and the for my part in the show, I mean, I've been trying to help keep her time that she's invested over the years focused on the big picture. So when she finishes a song, the composition. And, you know, a lot of people who don't know about how that process works, meaning that she's written the melodies, the harmonies,
Yes.
you know, and frequently detailed how some of the arrangements should happen, what instruments we might use for each version of this. And I've taken on the task of, you know, assigning the parts, the bass, the percussion. And by the way, when we get to the South Florida premiere, we're going to have a 15-piece orchestra.
Yes.
So,
it was really interesting because, I mean, some people think that because I am from Cuba, that I was raised listening to a lot of salsa and things. Well, I got something to tell you. My mom used to listen to Glenn Miller. Even though it was illegal to listen to American music, she had a few records of that. And so I really was not really surrounded by that. And then in Spain, I started listening to flamenco, which, by the way, there's a few flamenco pieces in my musical. I couldn't escape it because it's in my blood. then in United States, I studied so much classical. I was not into these salsa things. So during this musical, I had to learn a lot of the salsa, the guaguancos, and all the Cuban traditional music. So
Well, and,
Yeah.
and so then, and it's my job as the arranger to take these wonderful pieces that Marilyn has created and basically make sure that all the parts are there, they're prepared so that each of the players can read them, so that we can put this piece up.
we work really very well together. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, he hides all the bruises. No, I'm kidding. So
Well, let's. How about this? Let's take a look at another one of the fun selections from Always Remember. Just to show once again that there's a serious side to this musical and a fun side. And Marilyn, could you tell us about Ciudadena?
Well, first of all, I made up the word because ciudad means a city, and I added the deña. It's almost like malagueña, which is a woman from Malaga. In this case, ciudadeña is a woman from the city. And what happened to me is that we lived in California, and then people would come and say, Marilyn, you should go camping. Well, for some odd reason, my hairs in my back were like, like this. So I wrote down a list of good things about camping and a list of bad things about camping. And I found myself that a lot of things that I was writing had a lot in common with Cuba, like no food, went through that in Cuba. No light, went through that in Cuba. No water, many times, went through that in Cuba. So I thought, hey, that's why I don't like camping. I was camping for 10 years,
And so actually, even behind this kind of cute song, there's a sort of serious commentary
Yes.
about life in Cuba.
But it's fun.
Well, and so here is featuring Sarah Mon, who is going to be performing in the showcase, and also she will be performing with us in the part of Maria Elena in South Florida. Here she is singing Ciudadena.
I have often wondered about a feeling. Why I'm so uneasy.
that fun?
Well, yeah, and it kills me every time at the end, her asking for the box of cookies. Could you get me one right now?
Would you?
Yeah. Yes, Sarah, again.
That's because I love those cookies.
And Sarah did such a great job,
Yes.
didn't she? And she's a wonderful performer, great vocalist, and we're looking forward to her performance at the showcase and also in Miramar, Florida. We have to also mention again the other wonderful musicians performing with us there, Randy Cloutier on drums and Tom Casale on bass. The other two members of the CCC Cool Jazz Trio, by the way. So let's tell our viewers too, because you can come and see this show in South Florida, and we'd love to see a big Massachusetts, New England contingency come down for this. It's going to happen at the Miramar Cultural Center, and the dates are March 26th through 29th of 2020. And if you want to stay up to date with when tickets are going to go on sale and so forth, check us out at facebook.com/alwaysremembermusical. Once again, facebook.com/alwaysremembermusical. And you can post things there. We try to keep a nice conversation between the artists and the public on what's happening with my wife's wonderful work here.
Yeah, you can also ask us the questions about it could be included in the fan mail.
Absolutely. Well, for next
time,
season, but stay in touch with us there. And but locally, and very important for local audiences, is the showcase that's going to be happening at Eastern Bank. Once again, this is going to be Friday, September 6th. 7:15 p.m. at Eastern Bank in Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, 226 Main Street. And if you would like to reserve some seats, you can do that by calling
508-491-8888.
They can also email us too, right, Marilyn?
Yes, at ccc@whipsinpetermo.com. Whipmo.
That's right.
I wanted to go Mo Whip, but still.
Well,
But that would be kind of weird, huh?
Well, not necessarily. I mean,
Mo Whip?
We've.
Yeah, well.
It is what it is now, sweetheart. Well, and by the way, back to the seat reservations.
Yes.
We will hold your seat reservations until 7:10 p.m., which is 5 minutes before performance time. So try to arrive a little bit early. And if we're hoping that we'll have a packed house, after that we'll have to give seats away to anyone who's waiting. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with all performances and everything CCC, please visit us on Facebook at CCC Festival.
Well, that's all that we have for this show.
Yes, and I would like to thank my guest, Marilyn Morales.
Oh my gosh, thank you very much. And I would like to thank my guest, Kirk Whipple. It's really funny because Kirk is a very hard word for Cubans. So
you
it's
pronounce
like
it so well now.
Yeah. Well, my father is like, or a Ken, poor guy, but I think he should call himself Pablo Dominguez or something like this, but
See how hard she has to work just to be with me?
Oh boy, oh well.
Well, thank you for joining us, folks, and we'd like to leave you with one more number from Always Remember. Again, the new musical about the Cuban-American experience by Marilyn Morales. And Marilyn, we'll let you tell them about this last song.
The name of this song is called July the 26th, In the Line. The reason that I wrote this piece is because July the 26th, for some odd reason, the Castros had called that day as the day of the revolution. Yeah, right. So anyways, but what he did, or what they do, is that they will bring more food to the supermarkets, and then you have to stand in line and see if you can get it with your liter libreta, or the liter thing that they write down what you can buy. So in the line is a whole bunch of people that are in the line, and they're telling you how they feel about being in the line.
Well, so let's listen to this last number and we'll see you at the show.
See you there.